All right. I want to welcome everybody to another installment of Get Hooked, the People's Podcast, a podcast where it's all about you guys, the audience. It's very interactive here. We want to make sure we involve you guys, so your comments and your thoughts are always welcome. Right, Kamisha?
That's it. We move based upon you all.
Definitely. And if you guys tuned in with us last week, we actually talked about social media and its impact on relationships. Basically, my takeaways from last week were two things. A, mind your business, and two, mind your damn business. So one or
the other, right?
One or the other. Yeah, there is no in between.
My takeaways from last week's podcast, and I'm not even sure if I got to mention it, but I would say it's okay to show, but it's not okay to show off. And it's also okay to be private, but it's not okay to be secretive. I think that was a really, really good show, but I'm looking forward to what's going to happen today.
Definitely. And as always, guys, if you missed a broadcast, or if you want to catch up on previous ones, you can catch us on YouTube and across all podcast platforms. The links will be posted to the web page, the Facebook page, once we conclude tonight. Today's episode is one I've really been looking forward to, and one I think that is long overdue. Long overdue in terms of the black community. And it's black men and mental health. Why do we seemingly avoid psychotherapy? If you would, guys, those of you who are watching it, again, we welcome your thoughts and your comments. But what I want you to do for me is, at first glance, when you first think of black men and mental health or mental illness or therapy, period, what is the one word that comes to mind? What's the one word you think of? So if you would, go ahead and drop those, and we'll get to those as soon as possible.
So we're gonna jump right in. I have a question, and my question to you, black man, is how did you feel about counseling or therapy in your early teens or 20s? How did you feel about counseling?
I didn't think it was necessary. To be frank, I always thought it was something for white people, something that white people did. As far as being a black person or black man, period, it was just like we are strong enough to get over whatever hurdles we face. So we didn't need therapists, we didn't need help. We needed the thing with black people. We were always taught to pray.
Okay.
Pray about it, pray it through, and go, take it to God, and everything will be okay. But as you know, faith without work is dead. So it takes a little bit more legwork on our behalf. But I was basically taught to just tough it out.
But where do you think that stemmed from? Where did the idea of being so tough in a moment was that moment really tough? Where did that come from?
Gender conditioning.
Okay.
And when I say gender conditioning, it's when we're raised, growing up, little black boys, we're raised to be tough. Mm-hmm. We're raised to mask your feelings, and if there's something that happened and we were in pain or hurt or whatnot, if we cried, they say man up or don't cry,
yeah.
Or if we showed any emotion, they say stop being a punk, stop being for lack of a better word, stop being a faggot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we took that to heart, and what we then did was we internalized everything. So we never truly got the opportunity, or most black boys don't get the opportunity to actually let those feelings out.
So you're essentially saying that black boys are raised in a way that keep them from being able to deal with their feelings, because showing your feelings means that you're weak.
They make it seem like it's a sign of weakness. Stop being a punk, stop being this, stop being that. But the fact is we truly need to get away from that. I don't know where that mentality came from, but it's one that has haunted us for decades.
You're actually right on time. We do ask again, if you're watching, if you could think of one word that describes how you feel about black men in counseling. We'd love to hear from you. And I said that you're on time, Hook, because Real says stigma. She says it's passed on from generation to generation, expectations set by the people, family, and those around you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're saying. You're saying that based upon your experiences growing up as a black man, it conditioned you to think that way. Let me ask you this. I understand you mentioned that you thought that it was for a certain race. For those that went, what did you take think it took for them to go? What did you qualify them as if you heard that someone needed counseling? What did you think?
In all honesty, growing up, I didn't hear about any of us going to counseling, like none. If they went, it didn't let people know. It was non-existent in my community, the way I grew up. I never knew about anybody that went to therapy, physical therapy maybe.
Yeah.
That's about it. But I think what people miss is that the thing about the black community, like if we get cancer, we treat cancer, and we talk about how it ails us. We get a cold, we treat that. Any sickness or ailment we get, we treat it. But the fact is, mental illness is a disease that needs to be treated. And people don't look at it that way, because it's like, if you get cancer and you let it fester, what's it going to do? It's going to eat you alive from the inside out, right? Same thing with mental illness. And people don't realize that. If you don't act, then it's going to gnaw at you and gnaw at you and gnaw at you. And I had to learn that the hard way.
So speaking of learning that the hard way, can I ask you how you feel about therapy now?
I would encourage everybody, man, woman, child, anybody, to seek therapy. For all intents and purposes, therapy saved my life. There's no telling where I would be mentally without therapy. There's no telling I would even be here without therapy. It's something that is taking me, again, Rel mentioned stigma. It's something that it took me a while to come to grips with it, because, and I'll go ahead and put it out there. About 3 years ago, I was diagnosed as being clinically depressed. And it was hard for me to talk about it at first because it was embarrassing. I'm like, I'm not crazy, like nothing's wrong with me. And I had to really do some introspection to really, gain the courage to even seek therapy. You know what I mean? I was at my wit's end, and like I mentioned earlier, therapy saved my life. I had thought about things that I thought that I would never think about, things that only quote unquote crazy people do or crazy people say. So I realized I needed help, so I sought it.
And that's really when I asked the question about how therapy was seen before, because that's a belief that I've heard before, is that therapy is for crazy people. And it sounds like now your opinion on therapy has changed
drastically. And
I do want to give you a moment. I'm going to give you a little moment.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Shakira says, and it could also be in the reverse, they've never had anyone discuss or share with them how to express their feelings, negative or positive. And Shakira, that's one of the beliefs that I have. I believe that we train our little boys not to cry or to express themselves, and then when we become women, we can't figure out why we can't reach him emotionally, why he won't express himself. I think that it also stems from that place. Again, if you are tuning in, if you have any thoughts on black men in therapy, whatever your thoughts are, if you don't mind just sharing with us, you guys definitely drive the conversation. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. I want to ask you, kind of getting back to you, so you've stated that when you were 16 and in your 20s, it wasn't an option. You were beat based upon, and I don't want to say beaten, you were discouraged from expressing your feelings.
Yeah, we all were.
Right. So therapy wasn't an option. And now you just admitted that you were diagnosed with being clinically depressed and therapy saved your life. How does one come from one opinion to the other? How do you make that leap even when you realize you had no other choice? How do you even begin to take that step? What would you tell somebody that's watching that came from that same belief that now may need therapy? What would you say?
I would say don't be embarrassed by it. It's not a badge of shame. It's not something that you need to hide from or want to run away from. And if the people you love judge you based on that, then you need to question your circle. These should be people that should be supporting you. In all honesty, I don't think we take it seriously. When we talk about mental illness, we take it as a joke. We take it as something to be laughed at, or we don't take it seriously at all. Which is complete and utter BS. It's like I mentioned, I was at a dark place. I was in a really dark place, and to be completely honest, this is my first time even telling anybody about my depression. My sister, who I talk to daily, she only found out about it last weekend because of this topic.
You had to prepare.
Right. So I didn't tell anybody, my mom, brother, sister, or anybody. I mentioned about being depressed and some things I was going through a few years back, but I never told them I was diagnosed. And it kind of died down, and I really don't think people took it as seriously as it should have been taken. Sometimes when men express themselves in that way, they think we're seeking attention. They think that he's just saying that because he wants attention, or he's going through a bad time. And in all honesty, I was going through a bad time then, but that was simply one of the many triggers that put me in that place. And and you mentioned earlier about women not really knowing how to coddle is a bad word, but I guess attend to a man who goes through that. I've had I've had women say derogatory things to me about the emotion I was displaying. Some said you acting like a bitch, and to a man those type of words cut, and I didn't realize why they cut so much until I sought their help. I realized I was sick. I didn't know it. I was sick. I lost weight. When your mind goes, it affects everything. So I was, on the outside in, I'm laughing, joking, smiling or whatnot. But on the inside, I was broken.
Dying.
I was broken.
And it's kind of crazy that you say that, because we are, as women, I think we are big on talking about this. Like I've shared, I've had my own personal experience where I felt the person needed to go to counseling. I felt like it was the only option. I exhausted all my options that I knew to do at this point. Right. I did the same thing. I prayed it through. I did all of that through. But mentally, it was just something else going on. I think it's ironic sometimes us as women, we're ready to offer counseling, but we don't realize that he's already came to us for counseling.
Right.
But we thought it was weak. And we missed the moment. And that's what you're saying. Those people miss those moments. You were ready to open up and they missed it.
What people do is people judge you based on who they think you should be and not who you actually are. That's huge. Don't judge me based on somebody I'm close to who may outwardly appear to be tougher or stronger. You know what I'm saying? Don't judge me based on, well, as a man, you need to do X, Y, and Z. The fact is, men come in different sizes, shapes, and personalities. Like, I'm not going to be, don't compare me to anybody. I'm not that person, and people judge you based on that. And it's hard trying to live up to a standard that you don't even set for yourself. It's hard. It's difficult. And that's why I was dying on the inside. People expected one thing from me. I couldn't be that. I couldn't be who they wanted me to be. And I thought that was who I was supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't realize who I truly was until I sought therapy.
You found yourself.
I found myself. Like, that person I was 3 years ago. Anybody who has gone 3 years without talking to me, if they come to me now trying to treat me like that same person or referencing that guy, I don't know who that nigga is. Like, he don't live here no more. Right. I'm a lot more confident. Primarily because I don't live to service other people anymore. It's still hard because what happens is, and it's not just people in general that you're trying to please, it's the people who are closest to you. So if you don't get that positive reinforcement from the people that are closest to you, then you start thinking something must be wrong. I'm not doing something right. But the fact is, God doesn't want us to live for other people. He wants us to live for Him and ourselves. I
mean, I can just imagine the weight that fell off of you when you came to the reality of, I don't have to live under anybody else's standards.
The easiest part about therapy is that I'm speaking to somebody who's completely objective. They don't know me. They don't know my past. They don't know. The only thing they know is what I tell them. And just being able to lay on the couch, literally lay on the couch, and air my feelings, man, it was... And I closed my eyes and I was just going through everything, and I felt like, just even talking about it, I felt so much. It's like the weight just lifted off my shoulders, like all just by talking about it, and again, nobody close to me even knew that I was going through that, but just even talking about it, there were things in my childhood that happened that I didn't even realize. You talk about and I didn't go through anything, no major abuse or anything as a child, but I experienced childhood trauma. I just didn't know what that trauma was. I didn't realize it. It unveiled itself.
I'm gonna check in on the comments. Thank you all so much. First, going back to Shakira, thank you. Shakira said, this is so good. Thank you. She said, you're stronger and more self-aware when you know what needs to be worked on, or even when you don't, and you do the work and seek the help needed. I'm proud of you. That's good stuff.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, Kevin. He said he's tuned in. Kevin Langston. Step says, what would you say to people to convince them to go? I've recommended people to go, and they see it as an insult.
And don't take offense when they see it as an insult, because you got to understand that's how we were raised. We were raised to, see it as like a badge of shame or something of that sort. It's not an easy conversation to have. The thing here in this case, like, nobody had to convince me to go. I went willingly. So what I would recommend, if you think that person needs to seek therapy, find somebody who has been in their situation or similar situation, a man preferably, and have them talk to them about it. Because you as a woman going to him and talk to him, it may not mean as much, not being, disingenuous and whatnot. But the fact is, if they can hear that another man has been through it and I can talk about my experiences, it may help. It may help.
Well, I want to say something to you, though, because you said you went willingly. I don't think that's what I heard. I think I heard that you were at the end of your rope.
When I say willingly, nobody had to say you need therapy.
But at what point in your life, though? Where were you at that point? Who could you have talked to? What was your breaking point? Because to go from the mentality that you said, there's no way that you just walked in there. There's a side of the story that if we're there, let's go there. Where were you mentally before you decided to do this?
My breaking point essentially was when I had thoughts of taking my life. And I want to preface this, like, I've never attempted suicide. I've never made any attempts in my life. But even having those thoughts come into mind is even bad enough.
Right.
It got to the point where I was weighing the pros and cons. Like, okay, well, because when you get to that point, you start thinking that people are better off without you. You start thinking that you're not good enough. You don't deserve what you've been given, or you may feel that you're not living up to who people say you need to be. You know what I'm saying? And the common theme here is people. It's not you. It's people expecting one thing, and you quote unquote not delivering that. Mm-hmm. So when I had those thoughts, I was like, you know what? I need help, because my daughter was here, and along with therapy, I would say Zoe probably saved my life as well, because I couldn't imagine leaving her in the world without me.
And just kind of commenting back then to what Step states, it's, to me, what it means is everybody's not going to be ready, and everybody has their breaking point. And your breaking point led you to say today, I walked in there willingly. You didn't have no choice.
You're right.
And so, Step, with that being said, everybody's not always going to be ready. You can lend that advice, and hopefully you're just planting a seed, and hopefully it moves them in the right direction. But I would just say be hopeful of that. Kevin says he went to therapy today. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
It's definitely a must. And what I will say, when you're delivering that information, be careful about your delivery.
Right.
You want to be considerate.
Right.
When you start going at people, calling them crazy, saying you need help and you need to go see somebody,
right. Yeah.
They get defensive and know they're not going to do it. But when you tell them, hey, I care about you, I love you, we need this to happen. And we is that operative word, because with somebody, when they're in a certain mental state, they need to know that you're behind them 110%. The major thing I got from therapy, I didn't even realize what my love language was until I went to therapy.
Wonderful.
That's when I found out what that language was, and it's words of affirmation. Growing up, I didn't hear, and my family, I have a loving family, so let me put that out there. I know my family loves me to death, right? But my family is not very affectionate. And when I say that, there weren't a lot of I love yous, or a lot of hugs, or a lot of I'm proud of yous. And I think something that we talked about last week, I'm beginning to create my own way of, I guess, my family environment. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell my daughter daily, I love you. I tell her she's beautiful. I tell her she can do anything. And she asks me if she can sing real good. When she sings, she don't hear me. She in the room. She doesn't sound very good. But I tell her, yeah, you sound great. And that instills that confidence. And that's just simply something that, quite frank, I didn't have a lot of. I didn't hear a lot of.
And something I think that we're experiencing right now is happening before our eyes. We're hearing about it. Shakira says freeness and newness are both absolute results of therapy.
Definitely.
Kevin says old people do not understand the effects of therapy. Rel says also some people aren't ready to deal with it, especially when they know their past traumas. They may or may not be dealing with the person or people that hurt them. Shakira said that's real. Kevin also agreed with you. He said that's true. April said, I feel like a lot of men and women don't have the self-awareness to even recognize when they need therapy. We are raised to be resistant. The stigma has to be broken down before the conversation can go anywhere. And that's true. And we based it upon black men, but us as a culture, y'all.
As a culture, period.
We're taught to fight everything. We are taught to
even each other.
Even each other. And that is so true. That's so true, April.
And people judge me on my pro-blackness, but the fact is we need each other. You know, the world beats us down enough. And as a black man, I can tell you the pressures that we face. You know, we're expected to provide. We're expected to be the man in the house. We're expected to, when things fall short, they're going to look at us. So the last thing we need is society beating down on us and our significant others beating down on us as well. Right. It's a double negative. We don't need that at all.
Right. I'm going to let you read that one out loud. That's from Katrina.
I'll read both, and both of my sisters just commented back to back. I love you, Hooky Poo. I love you too. I love you so much, brother. I love y'all too. And you know, I'm glad that we can have this conversation primarily because, you know, I don't know why black people think it's such a bad thing to tell people you love them. Even we as men, we need to tell each other we love each other.
Come on.
You know, like, I don't see the problem with that. You know, it's we make it seem like it's such, we're so, you know, macho. We think that it's a bad thing to show our emotion. Like, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. It took me a long time to, you know, understand that that's just who I am. You know what I mean? And it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to be who you want me to be. I can only be me, and you either love me for who I am or you can get on.
That's wonderful. And I think one thing, though, is the whole macho-ness. It's nothing wrong with being a man. It's nothing wrong with wearing your mantle, especially being a black man. But to some degree, do you not see that strength as a defense mechanism?
That's all it is. You know, people... I mean, you walk around and you see black men, you know, they hardly speak to each other. They're mean mugging. They want to seem as hard as possible. Like, nigga, smile. Like, so, I'm sorry. No more N-words.
No N-words, guys. Sheesh.
Negro, smile. But the fact is, it's like, it doesn't take all that. Like, you don't have to exude machismo to be a man.
That's
you know,
true.
You can be a man regardless. Like, I think I'm stronger now than I've ever been in the past. Primarily because, like, now I don't care about that stigma. I don't care if people call me crazy because I went to therapy. You have to develop a sense of apathy. People aren't gonna always like everything you do or everything you say, and they're gonna have their negative opinions about you. But it's what do you do with that? It's not what people call you. It's what you answer to.
It's what you answer to. So let me just ask you, with that being said, now that you know you've been diagnosed, you know that you're clinically depressed, or you believe you got the diagnosis and you're doing the proper steps to be a completely different person. It's amazing. What is it that you need now from those around you? What is it that you need from your friends? Are you articulating it? What are you doing to help those in your life cope and function with you and not feeling against you?
That's still one of my struggle areas. And I say that because I'm not an attention seeker. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to, but I'm not at the point where I can actively get people to check on me But
at this point now, you said that you were putting other people's expectations on yourself and it caused you to feel away. Why would that even have anything to do with being an attention seeker if you know that that's not what you're doing?
No, I know that's not what I'm doing. And it's, you know, the way that, and again, a lot of things I still struggle with because the type of friend I am.
Okay.
And again, I can't expect everybody to do what I do, but I'm loyal to a fault. Right. If I care about you, if I love you, you know, there are certain things I'm going to do to check on you. If I know you're going through something, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to say, hey, is everything good? Are you okay? You know? And I guess my expectations from the people that I love, you know, every day is not a good day. And some days you need that encouragement. You need people, you know, because with me, when I have my bad days, it's just what people don't realize. Like when you're having those mental struggles, it's like a tug of war every single day. It's like you're fighting an internal battle that nobody knows about. You know, like in the cartoons, you know, you have the angel on the shoulder, the devil on that shoulder. It's no different. And like there are days when I literally don't want to get up. There are days when I, you know, even when I have Zoe, I'm kind of, you know, like I want to do things with her, but I don't have the energy. Physically, I'm okay, but mentally, I'm just not there. And some days you just need that encouragement, saying, "Hey, I hope all is well." That goes a long way when you just know you have somebody thinking about you. You know, and it's with anybody. I don't want to put the focus just on me, but with anybody you know who's going through anything. Talk to them, because you never know when they need it the most, because people are fighting internal battles every day that nobody knows anything about.
Everybody. And
you see people every day at work or in the gym or whatnot. They're smiling, they speak. When they get home, man, you never know what's going on. I can't tell you how many nights I've cried in silence. You know, just bawled, just curled up, and just didn't have an out. And I used to think, I'm like, I must be going fool. I'm like, something's wrong with me. Something was wrong. I was sick. I was ill. But I needed to seek that therapy. And now that I'm actively seeking that, I'm a completely different guy.
That's wonderful. I'm going to go back to the comments here. And I'm just going to say it again. Katrina said, "I love you, Hookie, too." Nicole said, "I love you so much, brother. You need the words, and you're getting the words. The very words that you said that you need, you're getting them." Jessica said, "Black men especially seem resistant to therapy." Rail clapped her hands. Jessica said, "I am quick to tell people to go to therapy. Nothing wrong with that." Shakira says, "And we're also silently taught to suffer in silence. Nonverbal, unintentional lessons, also known as habits, are often the biggest ones with lasting effects." That's so good. "Some habits passed down from generation to generation are indeed unhealthy, but we function in them as though they are normal and end up continuing with them with our kids, then them to others, to theirs."
Absolutely. And Shakira, you said a mouthful. It's like these habits and these ideas have been passed down through generations, and we're just taught to think, hey, that's just who we are. That's okay.
Functioning dysfunctionally.
Right? No, that's not who we are. That's who you are. That's who you portray to be. But it's okay to show that emotion, man. You can't. I can't stress that enough. Fellas, it's okay. You know, and the main reason I wanted to talk about this, if I can reach this one person, one guy, one of my fellow brothers, like, I've done a lot, because it's perfectly fine. It took me. Now it's I'm not saying it's easy to get up here and talk about it, because it's not. It's still difficult. But 3 years ago, I wouldn't have done this at all. I wouldn't even have this platform. But because I've gone to therapy, this is one of the reasons I launched the entire Get Hook movement in the first place. Is because to touch on topics that people don't want to talk about. We are all we have, so we got to hold each other accountable.
Shakira, I just want to go back to that, and we talked about generation to generation. It impacts us at work. He spoke about living up to other people's thoughts of you. Sometimes you don't even know if they're thinking that, but you've been conditioned to think that way. Having to appear hard, not being able to share your emotions, like just living under this stigma that makes us sick. You said a mouthful. I do agree with Hook on that. Jessica says that she too has been diagnosed with depression and anxiety. She said her depression is just high functioning.
And that's all it is. And, you know, people, and I know Jessica personally, and I never would have thought that she was diagnosed with depression. I'm sure anybody you ask would probably think the same thing about Jessica as well as myself.
And thank you for sharing that, Jessica.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
It takes a lot, and I thank you as well, Jessica. Like, it's not easy to come out and say that because of the stigma that is associated with that.
And I think, y'all, this is something that people need to know. We sometimes get so caught up in saying we and they as if things are absolute. This lets you know that everything is not absolute. Every black man does not feel that way. Every black woman does not feel that way, and there are people out here telling their truths. So I do think, y'all. And leading right into that, Kevin said, yes, we are the generation breaking the cycle. Exactly. My friends are cool and excited about counseling and therapy, while some of the older generation look down on it.
Definitely. And older people, man, like, I think that's where a lot of it stemmed from. Like, black men don't want to seek like help for anything medically related. You know, like, we're the last to go to the doctors, but you have to take care of yourself. And people think when people think about illness and health, they think about being physically healthy. But when the mind goes, everything goes. Like, you know, a mind is truly a terrible thing to waste. You can't really function without your brain. And I think the biggest thing that therapy has taught me, though, is because my biggest thing was trying to live up to people's standards and worrying about how people felt and not being quote unquote good enough. When people say stuff about you, it's more of a reflection on them, not you. So there's nothing wrong with you. When people try to dim your light, or when they, you know, don't acknowledge your greatness, because everybody has something they're good at, it's not a reflection on you. It's completely a reflection on them. And you know, and because sometimes when you go through things like that, you feel alone and powerless, man. It's like you feel like I said, some days you just don't want to do anything. You know, you don't want to get up. You don't want to, you know, be active. It's kind of like you just want to lay in bed all day, but now you got to get up. You got to go to work. You got to take care of your kids, take care of the house, and all this other stuff. It's a lot, especially when you find the internal battle.
So Shakira says, breaking generational cycles and curses, trailblazers. It ain't easy, but it's so worth it. You are worth it. Absolutely.
Definitely. And I think another reason, probably I can speak for myself personally, but a lot of brothers probably don't want to seek it, is fear of broken confidentiality. Like, you don't want everybody to know what's going on. Like, if I'm coming to you in confidence, think about it. Like, if I were to go to, before I even saw therapy, I go to somebody in my family, hey, I'm having thoughts of suicide. Y'all know Hook about to kill himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, the one thing, you know, and then it's going to snowball into, well, you know, you're being weak, or, you know, you're doing this or you're doing that. But the fact is, that has absolutely nothing to do with it. Because you're, you know, quote unquote mentally ill, you're still fine. You're still normal. And it's not good to have those thoughts, but it is good to seek help about it. And that's why I tell everybody that therapy is a must for not just men but women. I think everybody needs to see a therapist. Like a lot of my, and I don't like to categorize my friends, but a lot of, you know, my Caucasian friends, it's normal for them. Yeah, I have a standing appointment with my therapist today. You know, and they look at it as matter of fact, be like, okay, this is what I have going on. But, you know, I'm thinking, you know, well, what the hell is he going to therapy for? You know, what's wrong with him? And I think that's where that stigma comes in.
I have two things to say about what you said. First, it's going to be pivotal who you decide to go to with that information. Because if you do go to someone and they make that phone call, that could be the very person that causes you to end it. Now, while I can't say, is it necessarily easy to know who to talk to? No, but I do believe and I know that the therapist is going to be the one unbiased opinion. That I do know.
Yeah.
That's going to be the one definite thing.
It's a medical professional.
Yeah, so. Real said, add anxiety and you feel like you're dying. Speaking from experience. Thank you, Real.
Literally.
Jessica said, the old folks say pray about it and don't let the devil win. That's the truth. That's the absolute truth. Irisha says, there are often excuses made that tend to normalize the signs of depression. Always being tired, you're working too hard, easily agitated, you have a quick temper, etc. And I couldn't agree with that more, because we're talking about therapy and getting to a place where you essentially felt like you did not have help. You didn't have a choice. But however, based upon echoing Shakira, there are certain mind settings and things that have been set in place that can sometimes simply make us stuck just because we think that that's the only option. Therapy may be needed in that situation.
Definitely.
It doesn't always have to just be depression or anxiety. It's day to day, your way of thinking, how you see yourself. Is there something holding you back? The whole mind setting of prayer about it. I will never forget the day that I was in a home with the man, And I didn't know what else to do. I said in the beginning, I had exhausted all of my options. And I remember getting down to pray, and he said, that ain't gonna work.
Wow.
And all of the Lord in me was confused. But then at the end of the day, was he wrong? Because I was praying and praying and praying, but there were no other steps or actions
taking action
to get him the help that he needed.
Right.
And he needed some help.
Right. And obviously we're not saying prayer doesn't work.
Prayer works.
It works. But
Amen.
The thing is, when you pray for something, God sends it your way. Like if I prayed for help with my anxiety issues, God blessed me with a job that gave me insurance that allowed me, to go seek the help I did. I got 5 free visits, and that started it. You know what I'm saying? So that was a prayer. But if I hadn't gone to work and looked into, the benefits I had, I never would have known that.
Work it out. Work your prayers out. If you ask God for something, the steps may not look the way that you want them to look like, but they're there.
Definitely.
All right. So Takesha says, I always encourage male family members and friends to go to therapy and not turn to alcohol, drugs, and women as temporary fixes.
Yeah, that kind of that as black men, that's kind of what
you said.
That's kind of what we do. That's kind of what we do. Go have a drink, or go get a dime bag, or just go lay up on as many women as we can to feel
temporary fix,
to feel like a man. You know what I'm saying? And those are things that we're conditioned to do as a culture.
April says, I knew someone who knew they had depression issues and would not go because of fear of medication, and it became a crutch. I couldn't imagine suffering like that and not doing anything about it. Blew my mind, but it's that deep. The fear of medication.
It is a fear, because you don't know what side effect. You don't know if you're going to continue to be yourself. I mean, I took it because I was, I was told to do so, but I did have my reservations at first. But at that point, I was desperate. I knew that I needed help, so I didn't fight it. Like I went with it. But what I don't want to happen, I don't want what happened to me to happen to anybody else. Like I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Like when I tell you there's this dark cloud, it just seemed like there was no way out.
Let me ask you this. With that being said, do you feel as if you would have gone to therapy earlier, things may have been just a little bit different?
Absolutely. People would, like, my family would joke on me saying that I had anger issues, and I was angry. And one of the reasons I was angry was because like my family jokes a lot, and certain things would trigger me. And they wouldn't trigger me because we were joking. They would trigger me because there has to be a balance. So you can tell people, you can joke with people and tell people, criticize people, but you also need to encourage people and tell them what they're doing well.
You have to.
And quite frankly, I didn't get a lot of that. And because I did things a little differently. You know what I mean? Like I played with Transformers. I played with G.I. Joes. I read comic books. Everywhere I went, I had a book. And a lot of my peers in Allendale weren't doing that at the time, so they saw that as being weird or different, and it was frowned upon. Hey, pick up this football. That's the only reason I played sports, to be honest with you. I didn't play until my sophomore year of high school. I only played because, and I ended up enjoying it, so I'm glad I played. But it was like, okay, well, you need to play sports, but don't read. You know what I'm saying? And that really weighs on you heavily. And so when you're being told not to do certain things, and you're not being commended for the things you do well, and then you're being teased for other things, you start thinking that's your normal. Well, damn, I can't do anything right.
And I think this also plays into, as adults, how we like to echo so much that there's not support. It's what we focus on. It's what we choose to put out there. There is support. And you said even if you reach one person, just one, that's support for somebody.
Definitely.
Somebody, and that's what people need to hear more of.
Absolutely.
Shakira says, I too come from a loving family. However, my own thoughts and conditioning took me down a path of intense depression and anxiety. But God, He put these medically trained people here to help His people.
Prayer answered.
Absolutely. Rail says, and the side effects of the medicine are another factor. Gotta weigh the pros and the cons.
Yeah, there's nothing about this that's easy. I'm not gonna lie and say I went to therapy and everything was fine. because I didn't tell anybody I was going. It was like I was living a double life. You know, I just be ghost for a couple hours. Nobody would know where I was, and that it was really hell trying to maintain that. But I sought the help I needed, and I would encourage anybody to seek that same help. And I think a lot of it is like when we talk about people with these anxiety issues, people always talk about what triggers that person, but they never really talk about they don't really. They talk about how you react to certain stuff, but they don't talk about what triggered that reaction. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I can get mad, I can get upset, I can cry, I can do whatever, but few people want to talk about like what led up to that. Like this didn't just start. I didn't just become depressed on my 40th birthday. This has been going on for 40 years, but I just didn't know about it. And people always want to talk about, well, you need to do this and you need to do that, and you get mad too easily, but you don't talk about any of the factors that led up to that. And I think that's why people are a little hesitant to really even talk about the subject or talk about why they're upset. And Rel mentioned the side effects. I experienced a few, but I think it's necessary. You know what I'm saying? So I would rather experience that little moment of uncertainty or uncomfortableness instead of choosing the alternative, because again, without that help, you never know what's going to happen. I can't be the person I need to be for the people I love, and I have a daughter I got to think about, and one of the biggest things I'm like, is she going to be okay? Does she experience any of these things? Am I going to have to worry about her having these same thoughts? That's why I talk to her often. That's why, I make sure to coddle her and tell her I love her. But it's just one of those things. It's hard. It's hard. It's not easy to talk about. Again, I hope I reach somebody out there, but this is one of the most humbling things I've ever had to do, and I'm not one that likes to talk about myself. I'm not one that wants to bring attention to myself, but I felt the need to do so in this instance because brothers need to hear it. It's okay, it's fine. There's nothing easy about it, and even though I seek therapy, even though I'm getting help, it's still a daily battle. There's nothing easy or common sense about it. The fact is, you have to continue getting better, because all it takes is a split moment to go back into that dark place, and all it takes is a trigger. And when that happens, you need people. I've been blessed to, since I've been going through this, I've been blessed to surround myself with some incredibly amazing people. And they look out for me, they check on me, they talk to me, and nothing's changed. They don't treat me any differently, but I know that they care. And I think that's the biggest thing, because I didn't always think that people cared, and you know what I'm saying? So it's good to have those people in your corner.
Layla says, or Lala, I'm not sure, I'm sorry. She says, sometimes it's hard to be open about it because of the people depending on you to be strong for them. Your thoughts?
It's a burden of being a man. Like, you are expected to be strong, right? When my stepdad passed away a few years ago, I was a bit of an emotional wreck, and I was crying, and this guy walked to me and he nudged me and said, "Be strong for your mama." Like, well, dude, I'm mourning too, you know what I'm saying? So it's like we're always taught to be strong, withhold our emotions, and for the people that need us. But the thing is, we want to be strong for the people that need us, but shit, we need people too.
And that's true, but I do have to say, though, not just men in that instance. If you're a mother, you have to look strong. If you're a daughter, they're a brother, whatever the case may be, there is something about our community that we just want to appear strong, or we have to be strong, or, you got this. No, I don't. Not this time. And when I don't, I need someone there. And it's good that we're letting people know it's okay.
But they think that strong is just one way. You can only be strong by, putting up this barrier. Even for women, right? You're taught to make sure you be strong even when you're dealing with a man. You're taught to not necessarily cater to a man, but you're taught to be strong without a man.
People
you know what
like
I'm
to say I've been bent, but I've never been broken. I found myself in being broken. I would not be who I am today if I were never broken. I can't stand that term, because sometimes it's the best thing that you could ever do, because the only thing it is to me is a launching pad.
Definitely.
You have nowhere else to go but up.
Definitely. And I think that one of the biggest takeaways I want you guys to realize is that out of all the things that endanger the lives of black men, for black men ages 15 to 24, suicide is the third leading cause of death. Third. Just think about it. Out of all the things we can be doing, suicide is that prevalent, and we don't even talk about it. You never know what people are going through. Like, you can say, he shouldn't have taken his life, or that's just weak, or it doesn't, like, if you haven't endured what people have endured, and even if just because you don't experience those thoughts doesn't mean that you are stronger than that person. That person just needs help.
And it says pay attention to your day-to-day encounters, because you may have been the very person that smiled or nudged them that can change things, and we don't think about that.
There you go.
And with that being said, though, how many times when you ask somebody, how you doing, do you really want to know the answer? No,
you do it just because it's
fine.
polite.
I'm doing fine. How you doing?
Right.
We don't really allow the time when somebody says, how you doing, to give a real answer.
And I become so much more mindful of that, and I remember a lot of things about people, because I mean, quite frankly, I love people. But when I'm at work and I see people and they'll say, hey, how you doing? Like, I'm doing fine. I'll say, hey, I'll ask about a family member that they don't even remember that they mentioned to me. Hey, how'd the son's baseball game go? Or how's your daughter's recital? But people, you never know what you can do to lift people's spirits. And I think that being polite, that's fine and all, but I think we just have to, as people, we have to take care of our own.
And I think we've talked about this. That's something that is implemented in my relationship. How you doing is not a regular question for us. How you doing is, how you doing? Work could be weighing you down. The world could be weighing you down. Family could be weighing you down. That how you doing is a very heavy question, but if you don't get it off of you, it's going to be a burden on you.
And you have to let people, like the people that you love, you need to let them know that you care about them. You need to let them know that you're thinking about them, because you never know what they're experiencing, especially if people are prideful or they aren't going to let on. People are fighting battles every single day that we have absolutely no idea about. And this platform is one of the reasons this is our time to speak up and really take care of each other and really to educate, because there are a lot of things that are causing people to break down in society. And and I know this is focused on the men in your lives, but at the same time, anybody, man, woman, child, I don't care who it is. Like, if you even think that they might be going through something, you just might be the reason that they may be here tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to let them know that, hey, it's okay, or hey, are you okay? If you know people, so you know when something's not wrong. Something's not right. You know when something's off. So you need make sure you reach out to those people to let them know that, hey, it's okay, and that you're thinking about them.
And I just want to say, with that being said, know that this is a place that you can come. If there's something that you want to know how people feel about, want to discuss, inbox one of us or the business page. We'll come right on here. Nobody will ever know, and we can open it up and unravel that thing. So know that, and we'll do it with the most sincerity. So just know that, y'all. Let's see where we at. Okay, Shakira says the level of vulnerability it took to do this, even on your own platform, is commendable. Absolutely. Rose says, we got love for you, Hook and Kamisha. Thanks for being transparent with us. Absolutely. Takesha says, I've grown to despise the term be strong when it comes to masking emotions.
And we have to, it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to express yourself. Don't think you're weak for doing so. We don't want people to look negatively upon us, and we're this be strong movement and man up and woman up, and it's crazy.
Redefine strong. In my opinion, everything that we have learned to classify us as strong makes us weak. having to have this illusion for people, having to appear that you always have it together, things of that nature. It's all right to be vulnerable. It's okay. And if you need help, understand that it takes a different type of strength to go get help. It takes a different type of strength to be able to say clinically depressed. That's a different type of strength. That's strong. Now that's strong. Katrina says absolutely. Lala says that's so true, and it's like I can't be strong for everybody else and then be empty myself. We can never pour from an empty cup.
Right, because you give and you give and you give, but you need to receive sometimes. I would say one of the biggest changes in me is I'm a lot more selfish now. It's okay to take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
It's okay to, pat yourself on the back once in a while.
Yes.
And I think the biggest thing for anybody out there, depressed or not, what happens is we seek validation from places that, quite frankly, you're probably not going to get it. Mm-hmm. So stop seeking that validation. Find that within yourself. And once you do that, you'll be fine. Again, it may not be easy if that's what you've grown accustomed to, but the fact is you're going to be your biggest advocate. Mm-hmm. Everybody has something special about them. Everybody has something to bring to the table. Whether people want to acknowledge that about you or not, it's there. Like Amisha said before, like if you guys have anything, and I know a lot of people are afraid to speak out on this platform because it's public, inbox me. Call me. I don't care. Like I want to help people because I know that there's somebody out there who's experienced what I'm going through. It's not easy. It's hard as hell. But the fact is, it's doable and you can still manage.
Rel says, I hate when people tell my son he's the man of the house. I tell him, no, he's not. He's my son. He's a child. He can't and shouldn't have to carry the weight of our household. I want him to stay a child as long as possible.
Definitely.
I have a son, and I could not agree with that more. My son has a very strong personality, but I believe in him being a child. I believe in him still, and it may be simple to people, but I want you to go outside and play. I want you to be in a child's place. I don't want you in every adult conversations.
Right.
This thing to wait for you to carry.
Right.
And sometimes people don't understand. They're like, oh, he's a boy. He's a boy. Yes, he is a boy. He's a little boy.
Still a child.
Still a child. Still a child. Lala says, we appreciate you. Arisha says, very true. And some may not reveal what's really going on because they don't feel supported. And Lala also says, absolutely. I wanted to share, I mentioned that I found myself from one of the lowest places in my life, and we talked about this as far as counseling. Mm-hmm. So on the back end of everything that we're talking about, I stayed in a relationship too long with somebody that needed counseling. I didn't know who I was going to go home to. I didn't know if it was going to be raining or sunshine or rainbows. I had no clue. I lost myself chasing after someone. And a lot of us have mentioned wanting to give people that advice of you need counseling. I said it until I was blue in the face, but never using those words. I just knew something was wrong. And I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know what to do. I tried every area. I tried to be nice. I talked low. I walked on eggshells.
It's exhausting,
I did everything until I didn't see Kamisha. Mm-hmm. Guess what happened? I needed counseling. Because I allowed that person to make me lose myself. Mm-hmm. So the impact on the household is heavy.
Absolutely.
When we don't make those changes, now I have a son looking at me and now I'm dysfunctional.
Absolutely. And one recommendation I would definitely make to Steppy earlier, when you talked about how to get somebody to seek counseling, offer to accompany them, offer to go with them. Let them know that you're fully vested in their well-being. And that means a lot. It's easy to tell somebody, hey, go to counseling and let me know what happened. But when you take the time out of your schedule to go with them, that speaks volumes. I ended up going by myself. And it's by far and away one of the best things I could have done. Like I alluded to earlier, there's no telling what would have happened if I hadn't sought therapy. I've got a lot of people that I care about that need me. I've got my daughter now. I've got my nieces, my nephews, and I couldn't imagine the world now. Once upon a time, I'd be like, maybe this is what is better off without me. Now I'm like, what would they do without me? Like, it's crazy how that mindset changes. And again, I'm not saying it's easy. It's still difficult. I have my good days and bad days, but like I said, what you have to do, surround that person that needs help with all the love and attention they need. I've been blessed to have people that in my corner who I know genuinely love me, and that's made all the difference. And I would certainly encourage you to make those situations better with that individual, because he needs you, they need you.
Rel says yes, it affects the family firsthand. My child didn't get the best mother at some point because I was impacted, and I couldn't see past the impact that hit me. I had to come to the reality of, girl, you messed up, and you're lucky. I mean, you're blessed. Honestly, it took me 3 years to recover, to find out who I was again, to find out what I needed to take away from that, and the mindset of what is now considered strength, whatever the case may be. It took me a longer time than you. Shakira says, one can also offer to cover the first 1 or 2 sessions. The assumptions may also be there that someone's insurance will cover it, or they can afford it themselves, but finances can also be a hindrance.
Right. And finances can definitely be an issue, but that's why it is good to seek that help and really find out what your best resources were. I thought about, how am I going to pay for this? Found out my job would pay for 5 free sessions, so I lucked out. But there are always alternatives. It's just a matter of doing your due diligence, doing the research, and when you go to that person, go with them with a plan, saying, hey, I found this. This is how we're going to pay for it. This is how we're going to work it out. But everybody going through something needs that assistance. And guys, we've got a few minutes left here. This has been great. This has been great. This has
you
been awesome.
Always like to say, what are your takeaways? So today I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
What better day than for you to wear this shirt, the fatigue shirt? What better day than to get in here, on here, share your truth, and this is what strength is. So I echo everybody that said that they are proud of you. And on your bad days, hear us. When that cloud comes, let us be on that shoulder. Everybody here today has witnessed you tell your truth in a world where they feel like men won't do that. So first, thank you. Thank you for being that example. Thank you for being that one that was willing to talk about it. So I'm proud of you. I'm very, very proud of you. Look. No.
I'm good. But again, guys, if you know somebody that needs help, talk to them and just be that ear for them. You never know what people are going through. It may seem okay or honky-dory on the outside, but the fact is they're dying on the inside. But again, I want to thank you guys for joining me. I want to thank everybody for the commentary, but most importantly, thank you for listening. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you.